My best friend egged me on to confess to my childhood friend at the class reunion, but it turns out they had already been together for a long time. She just wanted to embarrass me in public. So, I ended up confessing to the campus troublemaker who had secretly liked me in our past life but never said it out loud. Campus troublemaker. Bet you didn't see that coming. The campus belle is reborn. Chapter 1. When Selena and I were waiting for the elevator at the KTV, a few guys kept glancing our way. Isn't that Alice? The campus belle? She looks even prettier in person than in the pictures. She's what you'd call a goddess, right? I dream of having a girlfriend like her. I really want to ask for her number, but she's way too gorgeous. I don't dare. Selena stood beside me with an expressionless face, but her fist, hidden in her sleeve, was clenched tightly. Suddenly, I realized that she had been unhappy with me for a long time. Hadn't she? Selena finally perked up when she caught sight of a familiar figure. She called out cheerfully, "Ryan, over here, coming." Selena. Ryan smiled and quickened his pace, but when he reached me, I took a step back without a word. I didn't even glance at him. Ryan's step faltered slightly. In the past, he wouldn't even need to say anything. I would have already stepped up to greet him, even though his attitude toward me was always clearly impatient. "Ryan, Alice has something she wants to say to you tonight. Isn't that right, Alice?" Selena nudged me with her elbow, signaling me to speak, but I simply pushed her hand away. "I know." I turned my head to look in another direction. 3 boys were walking toward us. "Kevin's here tonight too." "Huh? Hey Kevin, your new car looks so cool. When can I borrow it for a spin?" Kevin just woke up and isn't in the mood to talk. He wasn't planning to come, but I wonder what news made him change his mind. Haha. My eyes fell on the boy they called Kevin. He looked as if he had just woken up, with his dark hair falling messily over his forehead. He had one hand in his pocket, the other idly spinning a car key. When our eyes met, his body stiffened for a moment. He slowly lifted his gaze, only to quickly look away after making eye contact with me. "Good evening, Kevin," I said proactively. The people around us were a bit surprised. The campus troublemaker Kevin and the campus belle Alice, did these two even know each other? Could they possibly have some sort of connection? Kevin also seemed momentarily taken aback. With a hoarse voice, he slowly replied, Good evening." The 2 boys beside him exchanged knowing glances, then turned their heads to the side, trying to hide their laughter. "Alice." Ryan looked at me with that familiar impatient expression, his tone full of entitlement. "When did you meet Kevin?" The same condescending tone as always. But this time, I wasn't going to play along anymore. I rolled my eyes and said, "What's it to you?" Ryan pursed his lips, his gaze darkening. "Alice, what kind of way is that to speak?" Selena was the first to jump in to defend Ryan. "Ryan's only looking out for you. He doesn't want you involved with that kind of person. Why are you being so hostile?" "What kind of person?" I stared at her and asked. "Someone who pretends to be one way in public and another behind closed doors? Someone who's full of lies, fake, and shameless? Don't get me wrong, I'm talking about you." Ryan and I grew up together, and after Selena became my best friend, I naturally introduced him to her. Selena knew perfectly well that I liked Ryan, yet she still flirted with him behind my back while encouraging me to go after him. Although I'd felt Ryan's inexplicable distance and impatience toward me, I'd never imagined it was all because of my good friend's handiwork. Selena hadn't expected me to stand up for Kevin. She rushed over to grab my arm, trying to pull me aside to remind me not to forget to confess to Ryan. But I simply pulled my arm out of her grip. Selena, who had pulled too hard, nearly fell over, and Ryan immediately caught her, concerned. This time, the look he gave me could have killed. "Alice, what are you doing?" "Apologize to Selena." His voice was sharp, so loud that the people around us couldn't help but look over. He glared at me fiercely, striding toward me step by step. I backed away as he approached, but the next second, I bumped into a solid chest, and a pleasant scent of sandalwood enveloped me. I instinctively turned, my forehead brushing against the tip of the boy's nose. He held my arm, gently turning me to face Ryan. His palm was wide and warm. Kevin spoke with a calm tone, each word clear and deliberate. That sure is an angry voice, just like my dog back home. He was standing up for me. Chapter 2. I remember that in my past life. At this moment, Ryan had made me cry, and I turned my head away to wipe my tears in secret. Kevin was chatting idly with his friends not far away, but his eyes were fixed on me. His brows were furrowed tightly, and his hand pressed against the wall, veins bulging. By the end of that night, I had been rejected and humiliated by Ryan. Crying as I ran back to the dorm. The next day, I heard from some classmates that Ryan got beaten up the previous night. It was pretty bad. He ended up in the hospital. Thinking back, it must have been this young master who did it. Kevin, don't say that. Your Tibetan Mastiff is way more spirited than this guy. I can vouch for that. Plus, it's worth way more than him too. Kevin's underling swaggered over, instantly attracting everyone's attention. The elevator doors had opened, but no one dared to get in. What? You want to fight? Ryan spoke coldly. No, Kevin corrected. Fighting means both sides participate. I could crush you single-handedly. I believed Kevin wasn't exaggerating. With that in mind, I politely stepped aside. Kevin, after you. Ryan, all right. Everyone here is a classmate. It's all just a misunderstanding. Just a misunderstanding. Selena was scared now, and she quickly pushed Ryan towards the stairwell. She didn't forget to shoot me a look. Alice, stop acting childish. Don't forget why we came here tonight. I really wanted to slap her. In my past life, I confessed to Ryan under Selena's urging, only to be rejected in public. He held Selena's hand and announced their relationship, and I was labeled the other woman. In one night, I fell from being the envy of everyone as the campus belle to a laughingstock. Later, I dropped out of school due to depression. While I was struggling with my illness, I often received and signed letters of encouragement. The handwriting was neat, with only a few simple words: stay strong. Someone will always be here for you. Each letter came with a blue balloon flower. It wasn't until I died in an accidental car crash that I found out those letters and flowers were from Kevin, the boy I had never noticed before, the one who blushed every time he saw me. Thinking about everything that happened in my past life, emotions surged through me, and my shoulders trembled slightly. Kevin seemed to sense my distress. He hesitated before calling my name. Alice? His voice sounded casual, but I could hear a gentleness I had never heard before. Yes, I snapped out of my thoughts. The elevator is here. I nodded, quickly stepping towards the elevator. Watch out! I hadn't noticed the doors were closing. Kevin moved swiftly, reaching out to block them for me. Whoa, someone nearby exaggeratedly exclaimed. I fell into Kevin's arms, and for a moment, I could hear my heart pounding. Kevin's hand was still pressed against the elevator door frame. He stood slightly turned towards me, his brows slightly furrowed, his nose tall and his lips a vivid red. I couldn't help but marvel. How could someone who played soccer on the field every day and fought in all kinds of weather still have such fair, flawless skin? My thoughts were wandering like that as I made my way to the top floor hall. The classmates who arrived early had the music blasting, but as soon as they saw Kevin's sullen face, they quietly turned down the volume. Honestly, I didn't think Kevin was in a bad mood. He just looked intimidating when his face was expressionless. Alice, come over here. Selena called for me to join them. Ryan was also staring straight at me. In the past, whenever he looked at me, I would always walk toward him. But things are different now. Wherever Kevin and his friends sat, that's where I'd sit. The two underlings looked a bit overwhelmed by the attention. What's the occasion today? The campus belle is actually sitting with us. The guys over there are going to be so jealous. Damn! Kevin's lips twitched, and he held back a laugh before smacking the boy on the head. There's a lady present. Watch your language. I suddenly thought this notorious bad student was actually kind of adorable. Chapter 3. We sat together in groups, and Selena kept giving me meaningful looks, but I ignored her. Finally, she couldn't hold back any longer. Alice, didn't you say you had something to tell Ryan tonight? Her voice rose an octave, drawing everyone's attention. Alice, don't leave any regrets. Just say everything you've wanted to tell Ryan for so long tonight. I'd love to hear it too. That was a lot of information. The classmates around us began gossiping. I smiled and nodded. Sure. I do have something I want to say in front of everyone tonight. I didn't miss the extreme excitement and jealousy in Selena's eyes. Alice. Go ahead. She could hardly contain herself, her voice trembling with excitement. Ryan looked at me coldly, full of annoyance. In the midst of the silence, I stood up, walked over to Kevin, and said loudly, Kevin, I've liked you for a long time. Be my boyfriend. The room erupted. It was as if a bomb had been dropped, causing an uproar. Holy sh*T. Kevin's underling, in shock, rushed over and nudged him. Kevin seemed frozen in place. A blush quickly spread from his earlobes to his pale face. He stared at me, his Adam's apple bobbing, a glimmer in his dark eyes. Are you serious? He asked, his voice hoarse. Of course. I smiled gently. What? Selena screamed, rushing up to me, completely forgetting to keep her facade. Alice, why are you confessing to Kevin? Weren't you supposed to confess to Ryan? Ryan? Seeing the dim light in Kevin's eyes, I turned around and saw Ryan standing up from the sofa. His face was dark with fury. I chuckled lightly. Why would I confess to him? He's not even my type. Alice. I had never seen Ryan with that expression before. Shock, disbelief, pain, emotions flashed across his face as he walked over. Chapter 4. Ryan. What are you doing? Selena instinctively grabbed Ryan's hand. I smiled. Selena, I really should thank you for always insisting I like him. But isn't he your boyfriend? Isn't that right? Ryan? I looked at Ryan, and he confirmed my words with a silent acknowledgement. No, Selena stammered, both shocked and anxious to explain. But by now everyone had already made up their minds. Especially the girls, they instantly understood what was going on tonight. The class president, known for her bluntness, spoke up. How disgusting. Constantly scheming against her own best friend. The type to pretend to be innocent only in front of the guys. Selena's face turned bright red. But to my surprise, Ryan didn't react at all. Suddenly, I felt that maybe he wasn't oblivious after all. He had just always tacitly allowed Selena to bully and undermine me. Ryan spoke in a calm tone. Alice, are you joking with yourself? Just to spite me? I was impressed by his confidence. I stared at him. Ryan, you've always trampled over my friendship and expected me to heal and come back to you. Where do you get the confidence that you can keep hurting me like this? Do you really think I can't live without you? He was silent. Kevin, who had finally thawed from his frozen state, moved to stand in front of me. The tips of his ears were as red as ripe cherries. Whether she's joking or not, she has nothing to do with you anymore. But I'm being serious. I blinked at him innocently. The next second, I pulled Kevin's shoulder, turning him towards me, and pressed my lips against his. Kevin's eyes widened. Everyone else froze. And the next moment, they erupted in hoarse shouts. Oh my God, am I really getting to see this for free? Damn it. This compatibility is killing me. My goddess. Suddenly, I realized that the only one who can match the campus belle's looks is Kevin. The person I was kissing had even stopped breathing. There was a faint scar at the corner of his eye, now shadowed by his long lashes. Kevin looked at me, completely stunned, his long lashes not even blinking. His reaction only piqued my interest more. Did this guy even know how beautiful his eyes were? It felt like I was teasing an innocent boy as I deliberately brushed my lips against his and whispered softly, Kevin, why do you blush so easily? Can't you even kiss your own girlfriend? His face turned an even deeper shade of red. The boy reached up, cupped the back of my head, and deepened the kiss. In both of my lives, this was my first kiss. I never thought I'd be so bold. It felt like a spur-of-the-moment impulse. When I saw him, I just wanted to kiss him. Is this what it feels like to start a real relationship? It felt kind of sweet. Gradually, I closed my eyes. That night, I stayed in a daze the whole time. The last thing I remembered was Kevin walking me back to my dorm. As for Ryan and Selena, I completely ignored them. When I got back, I just blocked them both. A friendship of 3 is too crowded. No need for you two to work so hard to push me out. I'll walk away on my own. Chapter 5. As soon as I got back to the dorm, Selena came knocking on my door. saying I misunderstood and she wanted to explain. She said she had no other intentions with Ryan. She emphasized her question, Alice, do you really not like Ryan anymore? Didn't you say you liked how handsome and mature he was? Didn't you two grow up together as childhood friends? I understood. Selena couldn't accept that the one thing she won over me was something I had willingly given up. Her feelings for Ryan might not even be love, just a need to compete with me. Alice, can you come out and see me? Selena kept knocking persistently until my roommate came back and chased her away. My eyes were fixed on my phone screen, and I couldn't help but smile. Kevin had just added my contact tonight. He texted me, sounding a little dazed. Are we really together? I'm very innocent. Please don't deceive me. I burst out laughing. I found a pair of matching couple profile pictures and sent them to him. Kevin quickly changed his. He said, I'm still kind of excited. I replied with a smile, don't be too excited. Let's go to class together tomorrow. Good night, my boyfriend. Okay. Good night, my girlfriend. Later. I heard from his roommate that he wasn't just a little excited. That night, he almost tore apart his dorm room, ran out into the hallway, and shouted, Alice is my girlfriend. Until dawn. No one dared to stop him. It was only when he lost his voice that he finally stopped. Then he took a cold shower, but still couldn't calm himself down. So he went to the field and ran laps. Chapter 6. That night, I put my phone down and lay in bed, but I still couldn't fall asleep for a long time. In my past life, during the time I took a leave of absence, I spent most of it taking medication and seeing doctors. I was no longer someone people envied, but I used to excel academically, sing, and dance well. I was universally recognized as the all-around campus belle, admired by my classmates, and a role model for younger students. After I fell from grace, it seemed like everyone forgot about me. Everyone except him. Kevin would never abandon Alice. Because of him, slowly, people stopped gossiping about me behind my back. He even put my name in during the new campus belle election. On the day of the school's voting, I was sitting by the windowsill at home, contemplating for the umpteenth time whether to jump. My mom came into my room, her voice trembling as she held her phone. Look, sweetheart, not all of your classmates have forgotten you. This boy wrote your name in the live video at the massive voting venue. Kevin was wearing a black suit he rarely wore. He looked formal and out of place, standing alone, striding to the front under everyone's gaze. It was as if he didn't see anyone else there. He had always been indifferent to everything, but now he solemnly placed the sign with Alice written in bold letters on the table. A single, solitary vote, but it stood out more than anyone else's name. At that moment, sunlight scattered everywhere, and he looked at the sign in his hand, his lips curving into a smile. Pardon my frankness, but this year's campus belle election is pointless. The difference is too great. The host, caught off guard by the unexpected event, hesitated before asking, Are you sure, classmate? Of course I'm sure. He lifted his eyes slightly to look at the camera, smiling confidently. When I, Kevin, fall for someone, I will choose her again and again, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, until I die. I stared blankly at the screen, suddenly remembering the anonymous letters that used to encourage me. One of the letters had a drawing on the front, a girl holding a rather silly-looking dog. The dog was wearing black clothes, with a scar under one eye. On the back, it said, The puppy will never abandon you. The puppy will always be passionate and loyal to you. Thinking about the funny little dog in that drawing, I couldn't help but laugh. That seemed to be my first smile since falling ill. My mom looked at me, shocked and excited to finally see some normal emotions from me. She stood there, flustered, and after a long moment, she started crying and came over to hug me. Now that I've been reborn, I will never let down anyone who likes me, and I will never let anyone easily destroy me again. Chapter 7. The next morning, Kevin and I walked hand in hand through campus. Everyone passing by couldn't help but take a second glance. Kevin usually wore his bangs pushed up in a rebellious, carefree style, but today they were naturally hanging down, making his dark eyes look strangely well-behaved. Suddenly, I had an urge to kiss him. We happened to pass by a little kid holding a candied hawthorn skewer, his big eyes especially bright and cute. I was instantly captivated. Blushing, I pointed at the child and said to Kevin, "Look, I want one like that too. I want to have a child like that with you." I was too shy to say the rest of the sentence. I thought if Kevin and I combined our genes, it wouldn't turn out too bad, right? Ideally, we'd have a boy and a girl, let the son take after him and the daughter after me. Kevin suddenly seemed to understand. He nodded and said, "Got it. I promise. Whatever others have, you'll have it too." He looked around, then let go of my hand and ran off to the side. "Where are you going?" I was stunned. Without turning back, Kevin quickened his pace. "Wait for me. I'll bring you the candied hawthorn in no time." Kevin, could you be any more straightforward? I simply sat down on a bench by the road, playing on my phone while waiting for him. I was engrossed in my game when a series of light but steady footsteps stopped in front of me. "Kevin, it's you?" The smile on my face instantly vanished. Ryan, rare as it was smiling at me. In his hand was a steaming, fragrant order of soup dumplings. "Haven't eaten yet, right? Here, your favorite soup dumplings." He offered the bag to me. Instead, I lifted my hand and knocked it over. "Ryan, do you know? I once died, both physically and emotionally. The one thing I will not allow is to make the same mistakes again. Sorry, but my boyfriend is taking me out to eat soon." After a moment, I remembered not to litter, so I bent down, picked up the bag, and threw it neatly into the trash. Ryan simply kept smiling, watching the entire time. "Alice, you've always been such a proud girl." I didn't hesitate to retort. "And you've always been this messed up." After saying that, I turned to leave, but Ryan suddenly raised his voice. "Have you ever seen Kevin get drunk and fight with his friends? Have you seen him gambling with dice and drinking at bars? Do you know that there are a lot of girls around Kevin? He might just be playing around with you." Chapter 8. I turned around, staring at him with a blank expression. Ryan's voice steadied a bit, and he continued, "You've never interacted with Kevin before. Alice, do you really like him? Someone like him? A reckless person, is he really good enough for you?" He couldn't finish his sentence. I lowered my hand, and Ryan, in disbelief, touched the side of his face where I had just slapped him. "You actually hit me for him?" "Yes." I glared at him and smiled coldly. "You insulted my boyfriend, called him reckless. How did I not hit you harder?" Ryan's eyes were filled with shock and unfamiliarity. "Yes. The old me was gentle to the extreme. I would never raise a hand against anyone, let alone speak harshly. Whenever I cried because of Ryan, he would dismissively say that I was just a delicate flower grown in a greenhouse, spoiled by my family, crying over trivial things, and that I should go find those boys who pampered me because he never would. Honestly, I cried more out of heartbreak that he never stood by my side." "Ryan!" A shrill voice called out. Selena had been hiding somewhere until now, and she rushed out, anxiously holding Ryan's face to check on him. "Does it hurt? Is it bad?" "Alice, you've gone too far. How could you do this to Ryan?" She kept rambling, but Ryan kept looking past her, staring at me. He suddenly interrupted her. "Alice, you've changed. Thanks for noticing." I pulled a tissue from my pocket, wiped my hand forcefully, and threw it into the trash. "Ryan, let's go." Selena's expression darkened a bit. She pulled Ryan's arm, trying to lead him away. Ryan followed her, but he kept looking back at me. After a few steps, he stopped moving. His eyes were still filled with complicated emotions. Meeting their gaze, I turned around expressionlessly. Under the camphor tree ahead, a tall figure stood. The boy held a candied hawthorn skewer, smiling at me in the soft morning light. My eyes lit up suddenly. "Kevin!" I laughed as I ran to him, and he opened his arms to catch me. I hugged his lean waist tightly, secretly thinking how good it felt. His arms were long enough to wrap around me completely. "Alice." Kevin's voice came from above my head, gentle and soft. "You don't have to stand up for me. I've never cared about what those people say. I know, but I just won't let anyone say anything about my boyfriend," I whispered, holding him even tighter, just like all those times before, when I watched Ryan and Selena leave together. This time, I boldly held Kevin's hand in front of them. clinging to his arm like a human pendant as he fed me candied hawthorn while we walked towards the cafeteria. Flaunting our love? When you meet someone you like, you naturally learn without a teacher. Chapter 9. While we were eating, I overheard the girls at the table next to us talking. I never imagined Kevin could smile. He looks pretty good when he smiles. The girl across from her immediately smacked her. Oh, come on. He's already taken. He and Alice make such a perfect match. Kevin didn't have any classes in the computer science department that morning, so he came with me to my class. It was a small class, with not many people in the room, but everyone was much more awake because of Kevin's presence. However, what caused an even bigger stir was the appearance of Fiona, another campus bad girl who used to hang out with Kevin all the time. Recently, Fiona had taken a leave of absence, and everyone thought she wouldn't be around for a while. She had dyed her hair black, and for the first time, let down her usual high ponytail, which accentuated her already sharp chin. Today, she wore a stylish white outfit, her top open to reveal a sexy bandeau underneath, causing the boys nearby to blush and avoid looking at her directly. I suddenly remembered that Fiona had once been voted the campus belle of the computer science department, though she later liked dressing up as a tomboy and hanging out with Kevin and his friends. When she saw Kevin and me walk in, Fiona simply said, "Huh, Kevin actually came to class." Kevin didn't even look at her as he pulled me to sit in the back. Fiona chuckled and turned her head, still grinning. "Come on, is this really necessary? Just because I failed to confess to you? Do you really have to avoid me like this? Even if we can't be lovers, we could still be friends, just like before. I could still be your little buddy. How about that?" Kevin snorted from his nose, silently taking a tissue to wipe the desk for me. Fiona kept talking, this time looking at me. "Kevin, I just realized you like this kind of girl, but am I really any different from her now? Why won't you even look at me?" Kevin finally couldn't hold back any longer. He gritted his teeth and threatened, "Fiona, I don't want to be mean to a girl. Behave yourself." "Fine." Fiona laughed cheekily and went back to flipping through the comic book spread out on the table. Love, or lack thereof, is actually quite obvious. If I'm not mistaken, the comic book Fiona was reading was Kevin's favorite style. And at this moment, Kevin was frowning, flipping through my advanced calculus textbook, pretending to look deep in thought. "Do you know how to solve this problem?" I leaned over on purpose to tease him. Kevin glanced at me, and his face immediately turned red. He nodded, then shook his head. "Then I'll explain it to you." I winked at him, and Kevin's blush deepened. "He's really cute." I tried hard not to laugh. Taking my pen to solve the problem, I explained it to him seriously, and when I looked up, I found him hurriedly averting his gaze. "Kevin," I said in a mock-serious tone, "were you looking at the textbook or at me just now?" He glanced at me, then lowered his eyes like a guilty puppy. "You, Kevin, if you keep staring at me, the teacher will scold you." He blinked, then said nonchalantly, "I'd still choose to look at you." That drawing appeared in my mind again. A girl walking in front, holding a little dog's leash, the dog staring at the girl's back all the time. "Kevin, this time, I won't let you down." Chapter 10. After class ended, Kevin was called out by a guy who needed to talk to him. As soon as he left, Fiona sat down next to me. She didn't say a word at first, just propped her head on her hand, studying me closely. I closed my textbook calmly. "You've been staring at me all through class. Haven't you had enough?" The girl smiled cheekily. "Alice, it seems like he really likes you. Everyone says you're the campus belle, but I'm still surprised that he chose you. It's not that you're not good enough, but that Kevin is the best in my eyes." I looked into her eyes. She had beautiful almond-shaped eyes, no jealousy, no resentment, just genuine admiration. It felt like a kind of mutual understanding between girls, and I could sense she bore me no ill will. I nodded. "I understand how you feel. I'll take good care of him." Fiona picked up a strand of my hair, smiled, and said, "You know, when I first met him, I had the same hairstyle as you. Back then, I liked wearing my hair down too. The first time I met Kevin was when I got cornered by a group of thugs. Not a single passerby stopped to help me, except him. He rode his motorcycle straight over and stood in front of me. Talking about Kevin made Fiona's eyes light up. and the smile on her lips became even more pronounced. I still remember his cold profile in the night, arrogant and defiant. His eyes were wild, yet incredibly pure, giving him a deadly charm. He looked at those thugs and said very calmly, "Get on." That was my first time riding on his motorcycle. After that, I wanted to stay with him, so I just tied my hair up and started hanging out with him like a brother, going anywhere he went. At first, he didn't want me following him, but after I fought alongside him a few times and made enemies, he had no choice but to let me stay. Fiona's smile took on a hint of bitterness. I once thought that as long as I could stay by his side, I'd have a chance, but I was wrong. Alice, the first time I lost to someone, it was you. Your arrival completely defeated me. I looked at Fiona sympathetically, reaching out to put my hand on her shoulder. Just as I was about to say something comforting, Selena suddenly burst in from somewhere. She must have already heard a lot of rumors circulating around campus, and she looked completely frazzled. "Alice, I was indeed with Ryan before. It was my fault. I shouldn't have kept it from you, but it was all his idea. And honestly, I agreed because I felt I had no choice." Fiona looked up at her, her expression odd and her eyebrows raised. Selena continued, "But now I've already broken up with him. Alice, you're always my best friend. To hell with all these men." She forcefully grabbed my hand, tears welling in her eyes. "Can we go back to the way things were? Can we be inseparable best friends like before?" Chapter 11. "So, what do you want?" I smiled as I spoke. Selena thought I was still as gullible as before, her voice quivering as she said, "I knew you wouldn't abandon me. You're the kindest person. Has that Kevin bullied you? If he makes you angry, I'll stand up for you." "Stop. Stop. Stop." Fiona crossed her legs and said, "Why do I feel like I can't listen to this anymore? Hey, lady, the couple here is doing just fine. Who are you to come in and interfere? Who do you think you are?" Fiona didn't know Selena, but Selena had heard of Fiona's reputation. She certainly didn't dare provoke this notorious big sister. She instinctively stepped back a couple of steps and said in a small voice, "I'm only doing this for Alice. Speaking from her perspective. If you don't like it, fine. But she hasn't said anything." I spoke slowly. "Fiona is right. Selena, who do you think you are?" I articulated each word clearly, if I remember correctly. "Back when Ryan and I were on decent terms, you were the one constantly shouting about how you couldn't let me be bullied, how you were going to stand up for me and confront him. But in the end, you two ended up together, and I became the outsider. Now you want to pull the same stunt again and go after Kevin?" Fiona suddenly understood and concluded, "Isn't this what they call a pretentious green tea and bro-girl combo?" She's certainly figured out how to steal her best friend's guy. Selena, who had already suffered repeated blows since last night, now found herself exposed by a stranger like Fiona. She stomped her foot angrily and ran out of the classroom. I looked back at Fiona, and we surprisingly smiled at each other at the same time. "Maybe we could be friends," I said. Fiona pouted. "Forget it. After all, you're my love rival. I don't want to see either of you ever again. Today was my last time trying for myself." Fine. I lost. I admit it. By the time Kevin returned, Fiona had already left the classroom. The comic book she had been flipping through all morning was now quietly lying in the trash. The page was open to the first one, with clumsy but clear writing on it. "Kevin, could you maybe like Fiona?" Chapter 12. After that, it felt like I was living in a honeypot every day. Kevin spoiled me to no end, listened to everything I said, and seemed enchanted, constantly giving me gifts, as if he wanted to give me everything he thought was good. The once arrogant and unruly aura he had seemed to vanish overnight. Not only did his hairstyle and clothes change to look more like a model student, but he smiled more too, always proudly showing off his girlfriend to his friends. He talked a lot more, and those who used to know him almost couldn't recognize him anymore. It was only later that I realized he hadn't really changed his impulsive and adventurous nature. He had just toned everything down for me. Kevin had even tried to give me the keys to his beloved sports car, but I insisted on refusing, because I had already received the best gift he could give me. It was those letters during my loneliest and most helpless times, and the beautiful yet solitary blue balloon flowers. In stark contrast to this were Ryan and Selena. Selena's reputation was very poor, She was now enduring what I had endured in the past. And Ryan had also become noticeably silent, with an oppressive aura about him. Many times, when Kevin and I went out holding hands, we would coincidentally run into him somewhere, even though we didn't greet each other. Every time we brushed past, I could strongly feel an intense gaze fixed on me. Time quickly moved to Christmas Eve, and in my previous life, I died on that day. Chapter 13. This year's Christmas Eve was accompanied by heavy snow. The moonlight was bright, and the ground was pure white. My lips were chapped for some reason, and I was so annoyed that I ignored him for a while. It wasn't until the evening that I agreed to go out with him. Kevin had prepared a big Christmas gift box for me, inspired by a video he saw. Inside were apples and red banknotes. I was amazed by his extravagance, yet helpless about his straightforward way of expressing love. The pedestrian street was bustling, filled with couples. The girls' cheeks were flushed, and their hands were tucked into the boys' pockets. Only Kevin, my straightforward guy, left his jacket unzipped, as if he wasn't cold, and held my hand close to his chest. "Aren't you cold?" I asked him. Kevin grinned and said, "Not cold at all, actually. I feel pretty warm." By now, I had almost forgotten that my boyfriend used to be the notorious campus bad boy. Every day, he looked so silly and happy, even feeding stray cats and dogs, becoming more patient with everything. As we were walking along the street, suddenly there was a commotion in the crowd. For some reason, at the exact moment I heard the noise, I felt a sudden pang of anxiety. A fear from deep within my bones enveloped me, and I shook my head vigorously to clear my thoughts. It turned out that a drunk man had fallen onto a girl. Her boyfriend, enraged, wanted to fight him, but the drunk man's friends quickly came over. The girl loudly said, "It's a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding," and hurriedly pulled her boyfriend away. "Damn, a pair of fools." The drunk man stood up and clapped his hands, speaking quite clearly. "Forget it. Forget it. There are plenty of schoolgirls like that. Come on, let's go to that bar and have some fun. Let's drive." Kevin stopped walking and looked over. His eyes were dark, with thin red blood vessels slowly creeping across them. "Alice, wait here. I'll go buy you some chocolate milk tea," he told me seriously. "There are police officers standing over there. Just sit here and wait for me, okay? Don't go anywhere. I'll be back soon." Something felt off, but I agreed anyway. Chapter 14. Not long after Kevin left, I saw the person I hated the most. Ryan, who usually wore white or light blue shirts, was dressed entirely in black tonight. He was standing just a few steps away, silently watching me, but I had promised Kevin that I would stay here and wait for him, so I wasn't going to leave easily. I shifted in my seat and crossed my legs in a relaxed manner. According to Ryan, I could never like a girl with such a brazen attitude and sharp edges. How ridiculous. Back then, just because Ryan liked light blue shirts, I bought many blue dresses. Fiona, who liked Kevin, tied her hair up and let it down again for him. Kevin turned himself into a well-behaved student for me. And now, Ryan wore the black clothes he used to hate, all for me. We all change ourselves for the ones we like, but we don't realize that love itself is something that breaks all norms. Someone will eventually come along who shatters all your expectations. They may not be perfect, but at the moment they appear, a voice inside you says, "It's him, Alice. Can't we go back to the way things were?" Ryan suddenly spoke. The way things were? The time before Selena? I remember during middle and high school, Ryan always gave me a ride on his bicycle to and from school. He spoke very little. I was the one talking nonstop the entire way. While he listened, even when I said something funny, he didn't react. Maybe only the wind knew if he ever smiled, because I had always been admired at school. He said he hated walking next to me and being talked about. So, he made a deal with me that we wouldn't act like we knew each other on campus. And after Selena showed up, when Selena and I would wait for him together, he would only bring one milk tea, strawberry flavor, Selena's favorite. But he forgot. I loved milk tea too. My favorite was chocolate. Ryan, what do you think? I spoke heavily. Is it necessary for us to go back to the way things were? The Selena you like only has eyes for you. She's pretending. I can tell. Ryan finally admitted it. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Letting her torment me. Was that fun for you? Ryan's gaze shifted slightly. Alice. I just wanted you to tone down your edges a bit. You were too dazzling. And I always felt like you wouldn't stay by my side forever. I'm sorry. It was the first time in my life I had ever heard Ryan apologize to anyone. Unfortunately, the apology came too late. It held no meaning now. I don't think we have anything left to say to each other. Some people see a rose and admire it, while others worry about its thorns and choose to make it wither by any means necessary. Such selfish people do not deserve my forgiveness. Suddenly, a hurried figure ran towards us. Fiona's face was pale, tears almost falling from her eyes. Alice. Something bad happened. Kevin got into a fight. There are many of them, and they're all drunk. Call the police. Chapter 15. When we arrived at the scene, I saw shattered pieces and faint traces of blood in the alley. There were people lying everywhere. My heart almost breaking. Don't go over there. My voice was low. I had never been this calm yet frantic. Ryan and Fiona were both startled by my expression. Ryan still insisted on moving forward, but Fiona stopped him sharply. Alice. Go ahead. If anything seems wrong, call for us. The police and ambulance are on their way. I nodded. I knew that. At this moment, Kevin only wanted to see me. I slowly walked forward. There were many people lying on the ground, all of them heavily bruised from the fight. I could hardly imagine my boyfriend facing all of these people alone, with no one to support him. But he still won. He wasn't unscathed, he just fought on madly until the end. Selena was there too. She was kneeling on the ground, trembling and mumbling something. Yes, the girl the drunk man had harassed earlier was Selena, and the guy next to her at that time was Ryan. Ryan couldn't let go of Selena's docile and obedient nature, but he also couldn't forget about me, his childhood friend. How could I not be disgusted by someone like that? Chapter 16. I was just angry that Ryan left me again to find her. I walked to a quieter place out of spite, and happened to run into those guys at the parking lot entrance. I was so scared, and I told them that our school's Belle Alice was really pretty, and if they had guts, they should go after her. Selena was trembling violently as she knelt on the ground, stammering, before finally passing out. The wooden stick in Kevin's hand slipped as he half knelt, barely holding himself up, and he collapsed too. But at that moment, I caught him. Alice? I saw liquid dripping onto his shoulder. I realized I was crying. Why are you crying, Alice? His face was pale, yet he still smiled at me happily. Look, I managed to take them all down by myself, like a child waiting for praise. Kevin, weakly, said. Alice, I had a really vivid dream. In the dream, that bald drunk guy ran you over with a car, and I almost went insane. I remember his face very clearly, so I couldn't help but follow him. When I heard Selena say she was leading them to find you, everything I saw in the dream rushed into my mind. I couldn't control myself. So, idiot. Suddenly, I cried and laughed at the same time. Whether it was in my past life or this one, he would do anything to stand up for me. The Kevin who was so determined to protect me, who wouldn't allow anyone to harm me, had never changed. Kevin rested his head on my shoulder, and I heard him say softly, Alice, the difference from the dream is that now I can finally be by your side and protect you. I forced myself to suppress the burning sensation in my eyes, reaching out my fingers to gently trace his brows and eyes. I said softly, little dog, I'm here to take you home. Chapter 17. The last letter he sent me in my previous life was a long paragraph. The flower language of balloon flowers is eternal love and hopeless love. My love for you is eternal, but I know I may never see you turn around again. You probably don't know a guy named Kevin, and you probably don't know that blue was the color you wore the first time I saw you. That day, you wore a beautiful blue dress, carrying a backpack, walking along the path under the trees. The moment I saw you, my entire world became clear and bright. I had never seen such a beautiful girl. I pointed at you and said to my friends, is that Alice, the school belle? I have to make her mine. Ironically, I later realized that I was nothing but a coward. I only dared to watch you from afar, never brave enough to approach. The countless times we accidentally crossed paths were actually the results of my premeditated rehearsals. Gathering my courage over and over again, at one particular moment, I suddenly realized that such a dazzling girl belonged to the world, not to someone like Kevin, and on that day, I suddenly longed to see him, for the first time. I dragged my weak and fragile body out of the house, but in my haste, I was hit by a car while crossing the street and died instantly. Yet, amidst this tragedy came a blessing. I was reborn. Alice does not belong to this world. Alice belongs only to Kevin, my most beloved little dog. Please believe me, this time, I will never let go of your hand.